AFC Championship. Are you ready?
Mahomes fires it near side to Kelce. Touchdown!
Jackson in trouble. Gets out of it. Throws. Touchdown! Remarkable!
Zay Flowers lunges for the end zone. They're going to say the ball's out. The Chiefs recover the ball in the end zone. This game is over. The Chiefs have the Lamar Hunt Trophy, and they're taking it to Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
17-10, the final score of that game. It was the second biggest game of the NFL season last year. It is the opening game this year. We are 2 months away from two of the best teams in football facing off. Chiefs and a remodeled Ravens team led by Lamar Jackson and one of the best running backs of this generation in Derrick Henry. This is Speak. That's Slick Rick the Bucher. To his right, the brilliant Joy Taylor. It's Friday, and Shady is here. Eagles all-time rushing leader, LaShawn
Yo,
Shady McCoy.
you don't ever wear the big gold chain like Slick Rick? That would be crazy with the little...
You should do it.
Next time.
When's your birthday, Slick?
Thanks for the
When's
suggestion.
your birthday, Slick? We can get you
March.
Bet. I'm going to start saving up, 2-5.
Okay.
Get him start saving up. Let's get to it, because speaking of getting right, the Ravens have to get right. They start off the season facing the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they've repeated for the first time since the early 2000s when the Patriots did it. They're trying to three-peat. What's standing in their way early on is the Baltimore Ravens. But, Slick, when I look at the Ravens, I ask myself very simply, are the Ravens a legitimate threat? Are they the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC? As I look at it, I can't confidently say that they are. But what in the world can you say?
I can say, no, they're not, and I know who they are, who is, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. For a multitude of reasons. I mean, this is not, we're going to debate it here, and I'm going to debate it with Shady, but in reality, there's not really anything to debate. I mean, the Bengals have beaten them 3 out of 4 times. They've beaten them when they've had a mediocre defense. They've beaten them when they've only rushed for 60 yards. They've beaten them without Joe Mixon. They've beaten them when the Chiefs got 10 hits on Joe Burrow. They've beaten them under every circumstance. They've beaten them in Arrowhead. So when I look at it in totality, the only time that they've lost is when Joe Burrow has thrown more interceptions than TDs. And that's only happened twice to him in the playoffs out of 7 playoff games, and it only happened 7 times in 49 games that he's played since his rookie year. So once out of every 7. So do I expect that would happen again? Highly unlikely. So for all the reasons, that when the Chiefs have been at their best and the Bengals have been at their best, both have been healthy, and even when the Bengals have been compromised, they've found a way to beat the Kansas City Chiefs more times than the Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the Bengals.
That's very well said. Very well said. Shady, we'll get to you in a moment. Joy Taylor, Ravens, are they the biggest threat? Or 2 months away from that game. It might end up being the most exciting game of the season. Literally 2 months away. Are the Ravens the biggest threat to the Chiefs?
2 months too long. I can't wait for the season to get here. I don't think so. I think it's still the Bengals. For all the reasons that Slick just mentioned. I mean, the Ravens are up there. The AFC North is obviously very tough, but we have the evidence of the Bengals being able to beat the Chiefs. And we say it almost every day. Who's out here beating Patrick Mahomes? Except for Joe Burrow.
True.
Because it happened. We did see it. It did happen.
Yeah,
it did happen. Now, I don't feel great about it. And I think that the Bengals are coming into the season with a little bit to prove. I think they have to get back to where they were before. But Joe Burrow and the Bengals are not afraid of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Never.
I can't say that. I mean, they're not. I think they respect them, but they know that they can beat them. And there's not really any other teams in the NFL that can say that with the confidence that the Bengals can say that, particularly Joe Burrow. When you're lining up from somebody like across from somebody like Patrick Mahomes with the resume that the Chiefs have, you have to go into that game knowing. And they really are the only ones that can. Now, eventually, I think, as all dynasties do, someone will come up and arise. I think that's very far down the road. If you're asking me if can I take the Chiefs or the field, I'm going with the Chiefs right now. But you're not asking me that. You're asking me, are the Ravens the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC? I don't think they are. I do still think it's the Bengals.
Chiefs on Chiefs. The biggest threat, the Ravens? No. You said who was it, the Bengals?
Bengals.
No. Where are you from, by the way?
Cincinnati.
It makes sense, because I was like, why was he saying? Okay, it makes sense. I'll just say
Where are
this.
you from?
I'm not from Kansas, I'm not from Kansas City.
We can take that same road, my friend.
I would say this. I just think that the biggest threat for the Chiefs is the Chiefs. Because who can really beat them? We keep talking about Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They kind of beat him, right?
No, they didn't kind of beat him. They beat him. They didn't kind of beat him. They didn't like almost beat him.
Listen,
They beat him.
Even Thanos lost a fight or two, right? But we know how dominant he was. When you look at what the Chiefs are really building there, they're building a dynasty for real. Now, seriously though, last year it was the worst I've ever seen the Chiefs look. It's the worst I've ever seen Andy Reid's offense ever look, right? Calling plays or not calling plays. When you look at them, like, the way they turned it on, the playoffs is phenomenal. What the hell you think gonna happen this year, guys?
Good thing Bengals weren't around to take
Because guess what?
advantage of that.
I don't know how good the Bengals got in the offseason, right? I don't know how good the Ravens got in the offseason. I know the Chiefs got better. I know the worst we ever seen the Chiefs was last year, and they won a championship, right? Now they get better, more explosive offense. For God's sakes, they got the fastest guy in college football, right, in the draft. They got him. Then you add Marquise Brown. He comes over there, Hollywood. So it's like they're going to get better and better and better. I look at the Ravens. If the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, MVP quarterback, right? The Ravens, top defense in football, best team in football, and you still can't beat the Chiefs when they're at their weakest point, how you going to beat them now? And then the Bengals, I'll just say this for the Bengals. I don't have much to really say about the Cincinnati Bengals because over the years, they haven't really done much. You get Joe Burrow, phenomenal player, turns it around. But what did that get you, right? You beat Patrick Mahomes one time, right, in the playoffs. And then what? And no championships. All I'm saying is this. When Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones gets in that playoffs, they're a different team.
You're not wrong there. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I agree with Slick. I agree with Joy. I think the Bengals are a big threat. And I'll say they're the biggest threat. I'm going to be one of the first to say this, and I think a lot of people will co-sign, so it's not outlandish. I think the Houston Texans should be considered the biggest threat. I think they should be considered the biggest threat. Here's why, Slick. The DNA, what y'all are talking about with the Bengals, I agree with. I think Joe Burrow's the second best quarterback in football. I don't think it's Josh Allen. I think it's Burrow. I love Joe Burrow more than most. But what the Bengals used to beat the Chiefs in 2021, the Texans are doing now. What the Bengals had was they had an offense that was explosive at the wide receiver position because why drive when you can fly? So why run the ball when you can pass the ball? Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. The Bengals had Joe Mixon. Oh, the Texans have Joe Mixon, albeit 2 to 3 years older. The Bengals had a second-year quarterback. Wait, the Texans have a second-year quarterback. The Bengals had a coach that was in their second year with the quarterback. Wait, the Texans have a coach that was in the second year with the quarterback. Then the Texans have what the Bengals didn't, which is a much better defense. I also think the Texans haven't been beat down by the Chiefs like the Ravens have, which matters. Joy, you alluded to it earlier. Not only do the Chiefs know they can beat the Ravens, but the Ravens subconsciously know they can't beat the Chiefs. And that also matters. Lamar Jackson is 1-4. Versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Meanwhile, I believe he is 59-19 versus everybody else. C.J. Stroud hasn't taken those lashings from the Kansas City Chiefs. DeMeco Ryans ain't afraid of nobody. Shady's former teammate, my former teammate, I know him well, talked to him last week or 2 weeks ago. So with that being said, I think although I don't have the evidence and the empirical data that you, Joy, have suggested and Slick, you've suggested, and I agree with that the Bengals have, I actually think it's the Texans who've taken the gargantuan leap to close that ground on the Kansas City.
So you just, I love what the Texans are doing. Coach-wise, quarterbacks, even adding new additions, the way they drafted. I'm all for that, though. I think that in a couple of years, they're going to be tough to deal with. You think, like, right now, the second year, right now?
You know what it is, man. Joy, you saw it. I think it was Ben Roethlisberger, maybe his second year. I think that's when they won the Super Bowl. Oftentimes, it's in that first 3 years for the quarterback that you really got to get it done because that's when pieces started moving and shaking. Yeah. Stephon Diggs is in his contract year. I don't know how long Stephon is going to be with the Texans. Danielle Hunter, he just came over. He's in his prime. He came over. I think he has like 70 to 80 or so sacks. Danielle Hunter's in his prime. I don't know how many more prime years you're going to get out of Danielle Hunter. Laramie Tunsil, he's in his prime.
Right.
Joe Mixon's probably only going to give you know better than I do,
lot of studs.
maybe 1 more, 2 more good years out of Joe Mixon. Yeah. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the third receiver. So I think the Texans are in an optimal position over the next 12 months. And DeMeco Ryans went all in. He went all in this offseason, I believe.
I'll just say this, because you have a great point. A lot of great players, right? A lot of phenomenal athletes. I get all that. But I feel like we're not putting enough respect on the Chiefs. Like, we talking about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Of course.
Do we know that?
Of course.
We talking about the Chiefs, champions, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, about to be the three-peat. That's what they're trying to fight for.
Trying to.
So real quick, the Chiefs was winning with all these special players and weapons, right? Then they get rid of Tyreek Hill, right?
Do it again.
Nobody thought that they would do this. Like, there's no way they could just go back to the championship again, right? They do it again. And then You look at this year, the team wasn't that good to me. They weren't that good. We were ever talking about, man, can you believe the Chiefs look this bad?
Yeah.
And then they win a championship, and then we're at the same spot again. We do this every single year, and I'm tired of it. I will not be fooled. Every